Tocho sampo pa gyu trashi pa tuche tempe trinle yarngoda pelge drol ze parche pande lame shabla solvade Oma Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munisha San Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Omo A Guru Vajra Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sane karma uta vardanya shri bhadra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Omo a guru vajradhara sumati munisha sane karma uta vardanya shri bhadra varsa manya sarva siddhi Om guru vajra Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munisha Sane Kar Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munisha Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munisha Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munisha Sane Kar Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Dhagi Je Tsong Lama Tuje Che Nyamda Dala Tuje Siksu So Gebe Shesan Dala Tendo So Oyon Sungi Nawa Tsedo So Tseji Ningne Solwa Debe Tse Dechen Korlo Visu Lekshune Yila Sambe Dede Malupa Gemel Hungi Drubra Chingelo Tsoni Sodan Diktun Shape Tse Dungi Namge Yinsu Lekshune Lapchen Tsoni Yonso Zopa Dan Chera Nyetun Changra Chingelo Chancho Pargi Ninsen Tukun Tu Nyu Peme Siudru Lekshune Janchu Drube Gegen Kunshishi Tungen De La Drubra Chingelo Dagi Lona Chela Chokpa Dan Chemin Samjur Ngemba Shiwa Dan Chedan Tumbe Dede Malupa Bemel Hungi Drubraj Dorna Tingne Tsera Tamche Dan Techi Pardo Neka Tamche Tu Rese Kyamne Lama Keleme Tukje Chingi Dala Siksu Solo Gongyab Drewe Nyamda Dajala Je Tsong Lame Tuje Rabgongne Kudan Sungi Nawa Dralme Tu Nyamsu Nyongwe Kesan Top Yanda Lama Dan Rame Cheki Pela Longche Chin Sadan Lamgi Yende Rabzone Dorje Changi Kopa Nyur Tob Sho Pakyuke Kudan Dagi Olu Pakyuke Sundan Dagi Nga Pakyuke Tukdan Dagi Yi Tenyerme Chiktum Lo ma kyuke kudan dagi lo ma kyuke sundan dagi nga ma kyuke tukdan dagi yi tön yerme çıktı çingi lo Om Muni shipu ki choshime to tamare raba linga shin ni de gempa di sange shin tu mikde ulwarki drokun nam da shin la chopar shoyidam guru ratna mindra la kam niryata yami Sangye chedan tsoge chonam la chancho pardo dani kyapsu chi dagi jinso gibe sonam ki drola pinchira sangye drupar sho sangye chedan tsoge chonam la chancho pardo dani kyapsu chi dagi jinso gibe sonam ki Drola pinchira sangye drupar sho sangye chedan tsoge chonam la chancho pardo dani kyapsu chi dagi jinso gibe sonam ki drola pinchira sangye drupar sho.
In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I obtain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings.
In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Namo yal haye ke dan le dan ne jin ke ru dan mi ke nam dan ro kun ge tanam che champa tham che ke to da ge che ten to. Buongiorno.
Good morning.
C'è un detto
There is a way of saying, very nice, that translated roughly means the following. On top of the mountain of the arrogance, rain, the water of rain is not left, of the teachings, and the flowers of the realizations cannot grow. While in the valley of humility, the water of the teachings remains, and so the flowers of realizations can grow. One of the interferences in our path, and in general in life, but particularly in the spiritual path, is our need of having to compare ourselves with others. And in this process of comparing ourselves with others, our tendency is to relate to the others in a way where we either feel like inferior or superior or equal, but when we feel equal, then we want to compete with each other. These are the three basic attitudes. So it's envy towards who has more, arrogance towards who has less, and competitiveness towards who is equal, and then one is never resting at the end. And it's not that in every instant we all live like this, but it's like three very common attitudes in life in general. And what happens is that we start from thinking that we are what the others think of us and that we exist on the basis of a comparison with the other. So if I'm good or if I'm not good, if I have a lot or a little, and so on. Very often we use as a point of reference to see ourselves at the other. Both the other based on how we see the other, but also based on how we think the other sees us. And we spend an important part of our lives trying often to make it so that the other sees us according to how we would like to be seen, and to make it so that we have enough, that we are good enough, and so on. And if we check, it's something very common since we were very little to look for approval. And it's something that it's already normal when you're a kid, that you go to your parents and you expect them to say, wow, you were so good, look how well you behaved, and this and that, isn't it? And often I've seen also the two extremes. There are those who compliment for everything, for anything, and those parents that never make compliments because you shouldn't base yourself on this and so on. But the point is that as years pass, because I think that age has passed for the majority of us, maybe not for all, but for the majority, we have to relate with our own structure, mental structure, and so on, that is already existing in this moment, that can be changed. And one of the very common points is this fact that we compare ourselves with the others. We compare ourselves from the economical point of view, from the point of view of the appearance, of the attention that you receive or not. The term in Tibetan that is used for arrogance is nagyal, where na means me, I, and gyal means victorious. For example, gyalpo means king, the one who is victorious. Gyal means to have victory, to be also a king. So Nagyal means that I am the king, I am the victorious, I am better. And the basis of arrogance is where, on the basis of like an object, like of something that we believe to be positive, we compare ourselves with the other and we put ourselves in a position of superiority. There is even who feels superior with the other because one believes to be more humble. And here I remember once that I was listening to the commentary of Divina Commedia from Benigni. He says, the most difficult of the qualities is humility, because you just have to believe to be humble, to not be humble anymore. But the basis of humility as well as arrogance is not the fact of feeling superior or inferior, but starts from the point of having to compare oneself with another, to see oneself. Other than, together with this, there is the fact that we often give an enormous value to what the others think of us. And it's something very, very common. And here I don't want to go long on this, but one of the important aspects is to initially try to understand, to be able to comprehend, and then to gradually realize that I am not whatever people think of me. Whether someone comes and says that I am the God on earth, that doesn't make me a God. Or whether someone comes and says that I'm a demon, that doesn't make me a demon. And for this I shouldn't have attraction to one and aversion to the other. But it's hard. Someone comes and makes us a compliment. Do we like it? Don't we? And we are happy. What feeling do we have towards who makes us a compliment? Attraction. And towards who criticizes us? Aversion. But what the other thinks or says in no way and in no moment determines what we are. And this is an enormous illusion that we create for ourselves. Technically, do we agree? If I look at you and I say, look, that you're this and that, it's pointless to make any concrete examples. You just imagine whatever you want. If I come to you and I tell you you're like this because you've done that and so on, does that make you that? Because if I have this power, then let's use it in a good way. You're a peaceful person, joyous, satisfied, and you become that. Wow, let's use it. But if I tell you this, and do you become this? No. And if I tell you the opposite, no also. And so there is an exercise, inner exercise, of repeating to oneself that I am not what the others think or say of me. I have no need to have approval from the world. I use the world, people around me, as a point of reference to see and get to know myself. Yes, that is valid. I use like the judgment of the others to understand better how am I doing, how I am. To me, it has happened that someone criticized me for a behavior that I believed initially to be fine. The motivation was not wrong and so on. But listening to that criticism, it brought me to understand that that behavior in that context didn't work well. For as much I had the best of intentions, anyway, it was not adapted to the reality of the context where I was, the people with which I was with. And so it's good to revisit and to try to change. And so to use the judgment of the others, to use the way how the others relate with us as a point of reference to see ourselves and judge ourselves is important. But from this to getting to having to condition our identity and our choices based on how we think the others see us, it's a completely different story. And so for this it's important to not get into a negligence where I don't care about the others. It's not that. It's mostly a deep awareness that I am not what the others think or say of me. And to gradually be able to repeat this so that this awareness brings us to the fact of not looking for that approval. The other point that is maybe more difficult, I don't know which one is more difficult, it's the fact that to try at least to see oneself not having to compare oneself with the other. So, me is me, you are you, I have my story, you have your story. Like that sentence that says, from close up, no one is normal. From far away, everyone looks perfect. I have seen this also maybe when you look at a couple that you say, look how nice they are together, they are a perfect couple, and then you get to know them. Maybe you spend like 24 hours with them. That's enough. The only perfect couple is the one made up of two Buddhas. It's the only perfect couple in that sense. Because our nature is to project our own things on the other. So what happens is that we all have our own things, issues, my experiences, my joys, my sorrows, my challenges, and it's the same for anyone. Everyone finds himself or herself living what is the result of all his actions and causes and conditions. In a few words, everyone is left with his or her own karma, like meaning the result of the accomplished actions. And it's not necessary that one is better. Okay, there are very difficult situations in the world, and I want to take away from that, but the fact is that each one of us has one is or her own path that is very difficult to get into and to say, the other is better or worse, because there are very different shades of this. Okay, of course, there are situations and conditions that are better or worse, that's absolutely yes. But one of the fundamental points that is often remembered is that we shouldn't judge the other, who we have in front, because really we don't know. A passage of a sutra of Buddha: a being doesn't have the capacity of judging effectively another being, and to do so, it's a cause of degeneration of oneself. There is a recent story and one that is a bit more ancient that are very similar. One was from Kaikalakpala, which was my master in India, and he said that when he was a kid, there was like in the monastery of Serale in Tibet, a monk that was a bit seen like the monk gone wrong, in the sense that he never had studied enough. He almost didn't know how to read or write. He didn't do all the various practices. He spent his whole life doing some small works at the monastery, in the kitchen, here and that. Was one that was joking all the time. And so, when they were very young, they used him as a point of reference to say, look, you study well if you don't become like him. But him, for a matter that was just about age, because in the big monasteries, one of the rules is that whoever wants to enter in the monastery needs to have someone that has been there for some years already that takes responsibility for him. So there is always a person of reference. That is not just like the responsibility, but also who has to teach how things work, who has to take care, and also the habit as someone that is responsible for him, because everyone has this. So this is one of the starting points. So there is this monk that was the example of the one that was gone wrong, so to speak, had another younger monk of which he was responsible. So it wasn't like his disciple, but like a person that was of which he was responsible to explain things also about the monastery and so on. And one day he goes to this younger man, like his disciple, so to speak, and he said, "Look, for 3 days don't come and visit me because I have to die. Don't come, and now I need to prepare myself because I'm going to die." And he said that, and the other person thought, yeah, maybe it's just another one of his jokes. Okay, but at least I have three days that I don't have to bring in water and this and that, so I can just be home. And he comes back 3 days after, and he was sitting in meditation posture, and in front of him there was all the necessary for the process of cremation to not bother anyone. And he was sitting meditation posture, and he was dead. And how can you know if someone is dead in this case through a meditative process that is a sign of a level of realization that is not indifferent? It's a bit like kind of like the dream of every practitioner. What is the top of the career, let's say? To die in the clear light. Wow. So this is like the maximum that one can aspire to, in a way, to be able to recognize the moment of one's own death and to induce oneself to death in meditation. And one of the signs that this happens is that when this happens, the person is dead, in the sense that there is no more heartbeat, doesn't breathe, and so on. But the body still remains warm, especially in the heart center, and it doesn't get into decomposition. And this happened recently, also this year. It happened with one of the great masters that was living in France. I went to visit this Rinpoche a few days that he left the body, and when is the state incredible, because also in some cases, not only the body doesn't get into the composition, but there is even like some nice smell in the air. It's something very particular. It also happened with Geshe Tupten that also came to teach here. When he left the body in Switzerland, in the hospital, he remained 15 days like this. And there, the doctors didn't understand. Every day they would come to visit all the doctors, the primary doctors and so on. They told me, okay, we can not do anything with the body until it starts to give signs that it becomes rigid and smell, and thinking that they thought that when they requested, can we leave the body without touching it? Yes, without until it gives some signs. And so maybe they thought, okay, just a few hours, but then 15 days passed. And this is one of the signs that even today, these are very recent cases close to us, one in Paris and the other one in Switzerland. But these two, for example, were very recognized, very acknowledged masters. But the one that was in Tibet was one that was seen like as the guy that didn't know anything. And in the moment of that, it showed everyone that he was like further than everyone. My master Gaklapala, he said, look, never judge who's in front of you, because you really never know. What are the inner qualities of the person that you have in front? You have really no ways of knowing that. If what you have in front is a Buddha, Bodhisattva, a being with high realizations, you have no way of knowing that. You don't have the capacity, because a spiritually elevated being can manifest in any possible way. Also in the text of Buddha, it is spoken of emanations of Buddha that are really in any aspect, also like animals, or businessmen, or prostitutes, or the mother, or the cousin. It can manifest like in thousands of different ways, not necessarily in a religious aspect. And so never judge who is in front of you. And it has happened recently, also a few years ago, in India, in the monastery of Serpo, where one of the monks that was there, that was more similar to the first story, and his nickname was Nimakara. There was like kind of a boiled brain, like the one that doesn't understand anything. This was like in the local language. This term is used, and it was like an example of just. But when he died, he got into this meditative state, and he stayed in that state for more than 45 days. And then there are stories of unacknowledged masters that try to do like this and can't manage to do it. And so it's something that, by all means, is one of the signs in particular. And these are examples to say we really don't know who's in front of us. The only person that we can really judge is ourselves. And one advice that is often remembered and that is important is to not go and judge the other and criticize the other, but to try to relate with everyone with respect. And this is important. We don't know. And so one of the important points in our path is to gradually try to decrease our arrogance, to decrease that behavior of us, of comparing oneself with the others, and to place oneself with superiority towards some, and competitiveness towards others, and inferiority towards others again. It's not obvious, but it's important. Also because one of the dangers along our spiritual path is that as we understand more and meditate more and we get more and more in our own path, there is a danger of developing a spiritual arrogance, and that is one of the worst. I am better than you because I'm Buddhist. It would be better if I wasn't, so to speak, in the sense that unfortunately this happens. We also develop something that in Tibetan is called Shengo, that is a sort of attachment to belonging. I don't know, for example, let's take two soccer teams, like say, okay, maybe Inter and Milan. For one that likes Inter, which one is the best team, Inter or Milan? For one that is like it's Inter, because that's his team, that's it. And for one that supports Milan, which one is the best team? Milan, because that's his team. The same thing is on a religious context. Sometimes it happens that my tradition is better because it's mine. I don't have a reason, a specific reason, and so on. And this is also the fact of having to compare oneself and have to place oneself with arrogance. Buddhism is better, and also inside Buddhism, this tradition is better than the other, and these kind of things. We need to avoid this completely. So when we speak about the importance of humility, it starts from the principle of being able to see oneself without having to compare oneself, and to make to do some work to not place oneself with superiority or inferiority or competitiveness towards others. And one of the antidotes for arrogance are prostrations and to pay homage. And so, and the first of the 7 branches, where now we get into each one of them, one of the reasons for which the first point is to pay homage, it's because when I pay homage, then inevitably I am acknowledging your presence. In arrogance, one of the things that happens is that one has a difficult time to see the other. One sees the other just as a mean to see oneself. But actually, we should be able to see the other. And when we pay homage, at the basis of paying homage, there is the need of seeing the other. And so for this, the prostrations are, first of all, an antidote to arrogance, to the sense of superiority. And it's for this that, in general, to make prostrations as this goal, this function of decreasing our arrogance, but at the same time, it helps to cultivate respect, gratitude, faith, and when we do prostrations in the presence of Guru Buddha, whether we are in the presence of our own spiritual guide or that we're just visualizing in front of us in the practice, we have visualized Guru Buddha, and as we do prostrations, we are doing prostrations not only as an act of paying respect, homage to who we have in front, but when we do prostrations, for example, also here in the Gompa, we are doing prostrations. I use a term that is not necessarily right, but we do prostrations to our own future. That means I want to become a Buddha. I want to reach a state of peace. I know that I can do it, so I pay homage to that higher goal to which I believe that I can reach. It's a bit like saying I am in a process of healing. I pay homage to who is already healed, and at the same time, by doing that, in the same way, I'm also paying homage to the I that will be healed. That is, I believe to be healed. It's also a way to reinforce my own faith that I can be healed. And it's something that is quite important. So, in the practices of prostrations, what I've seen is that more practitioners are advanced in their stages of practice, the more they give importance to this. My masters have done until the end of their lives 100 prostrations a day. Lama Tsong Khapa, the founder of our tradition, at a certain point he had studied all the possible texts and he had a level of knowledge of the Dharma that was incredible. To give an idea, Lama Tsong Khapa started his education, formal education, in Dharma when he was 1 year and a half. Because at the time, there wasn't the tradition of recognizing the reincarnation, but yes, that of recognizing children that were born with particular qualities and to give them education without saying that that they were like a reincarnation of this or that. When Lama Tsongkhapa was 1 year and a half, the Lama, the most important Lama of the region where he went to his father and he said, "Look, your child has a particular predisposition for Dharma. I want to educate him." And they said, "Yeah, that's fine." So he started when he was 1 year and a half, and it is said that he gave his first teachings when he was 3 years old, and when he was 7, he was already doing the self-initiation of Eruka. It was really on a very advanced level, and he had a capacity of knowledge of the Dharma and the teachings that was incredible. When you go read his books, partly it's like scary, like the level of precision that he had, and even having all this knowledge, at a certain point Lama Tsongkhapa said, "Okay, me to be able to pass whatever I have from a conceptual level to a non-conceptual level of realization, I need to get into the path of accumulating positive karmic force and to purify the negative one." And he went to this place called Wakacholi to do a retreat, where he remained for more or less 1 year and a half. And during this period, he did accumulation of prostrations. It's not that okay, now it's like those that do a lot of prostration do like 100,000, and that really seems a lot, but he did like 1.5 million. The place where he did prostrations, there was no like wooden thing, there was like a stone inside of a cave, and still today there is like the imprints where he did the prostrations. Don't remember exactly the number, but he also did like more than 1.5 million of mandala offerings. And it showed us, gave us the example that it's important to do this practice. And one of the main reasons is that it's an antidote to our own arrogance. And to cultivate respect, the homage, the faith, the gratitude towards the Buddha, towards Dharma, towards our path, towards our own potential, and of course towards the Guru, cultivating that relationship of trust of which we have talked until now. So the first thing to do of the 7 is to do prostrations. As we've seen yesterday, we can do them physically, verbally, and also mentally. Usually you do it physically. As a minimum, you unite the hands at the heart, and you do like a slight bow. Then you can put like the hands at the crown, at the throat and heart, representing the prostration of body, speech and mind. And we should always remember that when we meet someone, when we go in a sacred place, it's important to pay homage to that person, to pay homage to that place. And this is also done simply with saying hi to the other person. When we say hi to the other person, it's like saying, "I see you." And often we forget. I don't know, we get into a restaurant, it's not that maybe we say hi to who's there. Maybe we say good morning or good evening, but like to really say hi and to look at you in the eyes also for some seconds, and I say good morning, and like I really give you a sign or something. But inside of me, I really acknowledge your existence, you're there, and I respect you. This is one of the important things, and even more when we get into a sacred place, when we are in front of a master of us. It's very important. So at this moment we have visualized Guru Buddha in front of us, and the first thing is to pay homage. So to do prostrations. And with this we also apply one of the antidotes to arrogance. And it's interesting because it's also an antidote to a lack of trust in oneself. Because let's imagine, okay, that I have like some disease and I need to go on a process of healing that is not obvious and nor easy, and I pay homage to who guides me along this path, and I pay homage to the path itself. I am at the same time paying homage to my own capacity of being able to follow that path. I am reinforcing my confidence to be able to follow that process of healing, because the only reason for which we are here and for which one can go and practice the Dharma is because one believes somehow to be able to develop some qualities and to improve and to feel better for oneself and for the other. So when I pay homage to this path, it means that at the same time I'm also paying homage to my own capacity of following the path. I am reinforcing that confidence in myself. The faith in the Guru and the Buddha goes hand by hand with the confidence in oneself, and the two things go together. As I said before, yesterday, if one would like to get to this point of the practice, as one visualizes Guru Buddha, one can get up and do prostrations, as many as one feels like. Usually a minimum of 3 and a maximum of whatever you want. There is a maximum number.
È un esercizio veramente, veramente bello. Poi,
then one important practical thing is that when we do physical prostrations, I've already seen people that have hurt themselves. For example, when they go down, they hit their knee, and in a case in particular when someone many years ago he was hurting his knee was hurting, and I told him, no, put like a pillow below. No, I need to purify. And then eventually he had to go to do a knee intervention and so on. In a while we will also talk what does it mean to purify, but you don't purify by suffering. If to purify, in order to purify we had to suffer, then we will make like a mala with iron spikes and we will do the sessions of purification, but that's not how you purify. The goal of purification is not to hurt oneself to purify. So one should do it in a way that it's good for oneself, not that it's physically harming. So if one does the prostrations and then some difficulties at the knee or whatever, then there needs to be like a pillow or some knee protections, and one should also check the way the one does the movement to not get hurt. And this is just like a quick important parenthesis. The second of the 7 branches, then also when we do prostrations, there are many ways, visualizations, is that in front of us there is Guru Buddha and around us the sentient beings, like when we did the generation of Bodhicitta. So we imagine that together with us all the others are also doing the same thing. So I'm doing the prostrations, and together with me all the others are also doing the prostrations. Then there are really some strange visualizations. I've never done this, but I've already heard this. But I said, okay, this for me doesn't work, because you imagine that one's own body is very big to feel the whole space when one does the prostration, and it is said that one pays the homage verbally. One imagines to have a lot of heads, and each head has a lot of mouths, so that you can make more praises verbally. We can imagine to have like a microphone with many speakers. I don't know, we can do many things, but for me this never worked. The important thing is what we generate inside of us. And let's remember that all these texts are like manuals to show us what can we do, what we can do, like a map. Then it's up to us to walk, to and to see how it adapts to our culture, mentality, and to reality of each one. But we visualize that the other beings are together with us, doing the prostrations, the offerings, and so on. The second of the 7 branches, then making offerings. When we make offerings, mainly offerings are divided between like external offerings, inner, secret, and of emptiness. External offerings are the objects of our 5 senses, or better, the objects of 6 senses, but mostly of the 5 senses, so mind, sense excluded. So we have nice things to see, nice smells, nice things to taste, to touch. We have the 5 senses, so these are the offerings of the 5 senses. Music, with these there are the offerings of 5 senses. And these are called external offerings. And traditionally, there are 7 types of external offerings that are made. They are directly connected with the way that a person was received in ancient India, and was like, for example, a Maharaja that was receiving someone. How was this person received? With a lot of respect. When that person arrived, for the first thing is that it was given water to drink, so argam. Then it was given water to wash the feet, padyam. Then it was given flowers, so pushpe. Then incense was offered, dupe. And then after this, light was offered, aloke. Then some perfume on the chest was placed, gende. Then some food, nevidye, and played some music, shabda. So this was the way to receive someone. So first you give him water, then you wash his feet, then you offer some flowers, incense, lights, perfume, food, and then music. And these are the mudras, there are the gestures that are done when we make these offerings. So what we visualize in this case is that Guru Buddha is in front of us, and from our heart we imagine that deities go out, like gods kind of, that, and these deities, they bring the offerings to Guru Buddha. Guru Buddha receives water to drink, and it generates an inner state of bliss, of joy, this state that is called the emptiness, the union of bliss and emptiness. In a few words, we imagine that Guru Buddha that generates this state of bliss with which he realizes the nature of everything, and then the rays of light come back and are reabsorbed into our heart with the deities. And in this case, we can do recite the mantra Om Guru Buddha Sapariware Argam. So you begin by snapping the fingers towards outside. This is called the lotus turning mudra. So when we do this, we imagine that the deity is emanated from the heart, and as we do the lotus turning mudra, it's going towards Guru Buddha. It gets to Guru Buddha and he brings the offering, the 2 hands with the thumbs toward the inside and upwards. It's Argam. Then as we have completed, we close again, and it's like the deities of the offerings that are absorbed in our heart. Then we do so it's still the same. When you open, there are 2 ways of doing it. One is when we do with the 2 hands in front, and then also one in front and one in the back. What is the difference? When we make an offering to Guru Buddha or to someone that is in front of us, we open with the 2 hands in front. When we are making an offering to ourselves in some practices, when you open, you do one in front and one in the back. And so in this case you open, you do the lotus turning mudra, you do argam, and you close. And then the same thing. When you do padyam, you put the left hand, you close with the thumb inside, that represents the foot. And with the right hand, first the hand is closed, looking in front, and then it opens as if it was like taking the water on the foot.
Saparivare argam pratisa soha Om Guru Buddha Saparivare padyam pratisa soha Om Guru Buddha Saparivare pushbe pratisa soha. L'offerta dei fiori.
The offering of flowers with the two hands, one next to the other. And in this case, the thumbs are at the bases of the nails, like this. And you open the hands like flowers that are blossoming. Next is incense, and here there are two systems. One system that is called Anuttara of the Anuttara Yoga Tantra, so the highest class of Tantra, where the deities have 4 arms, and one where the deities of offerings have 2 arms. So what happens is that when the deity of offerings has 4 arms and you do the incense offering, you do this mudra that represents powder incense that is placed in the container of the incense that is below. So imagine that it's like kind of a brazier, but we have only 2 hands. When you do the mudra visualizing a deity with 2 hands, then you do the incense like this, that represents many incense sticks, one crossed with the other. Commonly, it's used the one of 4 arms, but both exist. So we at least learn one with the dupe. So you do this mudra towards the inside. Then you do aloke, which is light. Light is done like this, in this way, with the hands slightly closed, like a small circle is left towards up, that represents the sun and moon. And in the lowest tantra, you represent the candle, and it's a mudra that in our culture doesn't work, and this is the mudra. It's a pure imputation of the name, but it represents like 2 candles. And in our culture, it's really not nice. But also here we should go beyond our own imputations. And it's like when Lama Ganchen went to Greece, and he was teaching the mantra of Buddha Shakyamuni. And at a certain point, people was feeling uneasy, and people were laughing, and he didn't understand why. No one was telling him, till someone went to him, and someone said, "Look, Muni in Greek means vagina. Okay, let's carry on. It's not that we change the mantra. We give a new meaning to this sound." And after a while, one forgets. At the beginning, one laughs a little and thinks a bit about that, but then it goes away. So even here, if you do the mudra, for example, in the practice of Vaitara and other practices, it's 4 classes of Tantra. In Buddhism, you have like 4 different types. In the highest type is done with 4 arms, and in the lower ones with 2 arms. So when it's with 4 arms, you do it like that, and when it's with 2, with the middle fingers up. So mainly we use the 4 arms ones, so we do it like this, with the sun and moon. Gente represents that the lower hand is holding the container, and the two upper arms take the scent and spread it over the chest. Then we have Nevidye, that is the food. When we do Nevidye, we put the hand with the index slightly bent, and also the thumbs are bent, and the two hands are upwards, representing offering food. And then when one makes the seventh offering, there is the one of music. You can either do it like this, that represents like two cymbals that are touching, or like drums, or even if one has some bowl or a bell, one can play it with the Dorjian bell also. Because you're offering music. And so these are the external offerings, and based on these external offerings we can add also on external offerings the specific offerings of the five senses. So we have
Si può fare così?
We can do it like this, or we can do it separately.
Om Guru Buddha Sapariware Padyam Pratishansoha. Om Guru Buddha Sapariware Pushbe Pratishansoha. Om Guru Buddha Sapariware Dube Pratishansoha. Om Guru Buddha Sapariware Aloke Pratishansoha. Om Guru Buddha Sapariware Gende Pratishansoha. Om Guru Buddha Sapariware Nevidye Pratishansoha. Om Guru Buddha Sapariware Shabda Pratishansoha. Quando si fa in questo modo, si visualizza.
When you do it in this way, visualize for each offering that the deity goes and then comes back, and when you do one mudra next to the other, it's like if they go out one after the other in a row and they bring the offerings and then they're all reabsorbed. Then after this there are the offerings of the five senses, then one can add. Okay, since we are already explain the mudras, we also do those. Rupa is form, so like a mirror. The left hand with the thumb closing, and up on top is there is the right hand with the thumb inside. This is like a mirror. Then we have Shabda, there is sound, as before. Then after this we have Gende, and we have Rasa, there is food, like the mudra of the food offering as before. Then we have Gende, just as before. Then there is a different mudra, there is Parsha, that means the touch sense. That is done with the two hands upwards, the thumb and the index touch, and then you do like this, that represent, imagine like some texture in the cloth that is opened. And these are the five senses. So you have sight, smell, sight, sound, smell, food, the taste, and then the touch. And these are called external offerings. And then there are the inner offerings that are a bit more difficult, but let's try to explain them in a simple way. In a few words, the inner offerings, one offers one's own body and mind in a pure state. So it's not an external object, but one offers an inner experience, because phenomena are divided between external and internal phenomena. External phenomena are everything that goes from our body outwards, where we don't have sensation. For example, hair and nails are external phenomena. Everything else which we have like sensations of our body are defined inner sensations, other than like, for example, discernment, consciousness, and sensations and so on are inner phenomena. So in the inner offerings, we do a process of visualizing, imagining that the body and mind are transformed in a pure state, and this generates an inner feeling of bliss, and this bliss is offered. The object that represents this is called inner offering, and this is the ritual object that represents this inner offering, that has at the basis the symbol of wind, then there is a symbol of fire, and on top there is something like a skull cup. Then there is the and here we have the triangle representing the fire, and at the basis that there is like the semicircle that represents moon. The wind. And this is a symbolic representation of the elements of our body. So the process is that the subtle winds on the inside are absorbed at our secret chakra, and they make the fire grow. The inner fire grows and goes up until the crown chakra, where melts what is called the white bodhicitta, generating an inner state of great pleasure. The closest thing to our mundane experience of this is an orgasm. So when we go and see what is the inner offering, is offering our mind and body in a pure state. That is represented by this nectar, that is represented by this substance and the inside of this object that is transformed in a pure nectar. But it represents offering our own body and mind in a pure state, in a few words. Then there is what is called the secret offering. Secret offering is the inner state of bliss. It's called secret because it's a state that usually, when we talk about, how can we say, of our own experience, mundane experience, is strongly connected with one's own sexual experience. So it's the pleasure of the enjoyment, the orgasm itself, where there is like a state of pleasure. If we go and see, if we have to offer what is best for us, from us, among all the pleasurable experiences that we have had, this is one of the highest experiences that there is, like on a mundane level. So one offers what is a point of reference for oneself. So it's not that one offers something external, but you offer an inner experience. You offer that inner state of bliss. And it's called secret offering because in order to be able to connect with that meaning, can be used some symbols that have a sexual connotation, and this can also bring to a wrong interpretation. And then it's also because we offer something that it's profoundly intimate and that you cannot put in words. So something that is secret also in the sense that it's like there isn't a way to describe it. It's like a deep inner experience. So what you're offering is not an external act, but like a deep experience. And this is called the secret offering. And then there is the emptiness offering, and that is offering our own realization and experience of the emptiness of intrinsic existence, of emptiness itself. Then there are the offerings of realizations, where we offer to Guru Buddha a flower, an object, but that represents our own spiritual path, our own capacity of having developed more patience or having more concentration, our own spiritual practice. We imagine an object to be offered that represents our own spiritual growth, the beautiful things that we have done. Because what is the most beautiful gift that we can make to our own guru? To practice the Dharma well. So it's this what we go and offer. If we take the text of the Guru Puja, after having done prostrations in the part of the offerings, there are the verses of the external offerings, then the verses of the inner offerings, then those for the secret offerings, and then those for the realization offerings. There is a specific verse for each one of these. And this is what is called the offerings. Then we can get into more details. Every type of offering has a relationship with an interdependence that is created for a type of inner realization. But now we have no need to get into the details of this. And so, in the moment of making the offerings, do we have to make all kind of offerings? No, we offer what in a certain moment we know, what we feel the closest to. For example, we can make only external offerings, then we can add also inner offerings, then gradually we can add secret offerings and also the emptiness and realization offerings. When we make the offerings, it's important to have something physical that we have placed on the altar. So before starting to meditate, at least we light a little candle or place some incense or some cups with water, like some fruits, something. We go and offer something. This also makes the difference. This materializing the offerings, for as much it can be like, even if it's something very small, to just put something on the altar, on the shrine. And one important thing is that making offerings is not like a sort of exchange. It's not like I make more offerings and I receive more blessings. The offering is an act of materializing a feeling of gratitude. It's an act where I give. So I go out of the I and the mind and I see the other and I offer something to the other. As we said yesterday, when we offer, we can give to a sentient being, to a being that has gone out of samsara, so-called the secret being. In one case it's called the act of generosity, and in the other an act of an offering. But it's always like giving to the other. And it's one of the most important actions. When Buddha Shakyamuni described the path to enlightenment, that in the Lam Rim will come later, after the stage of development of Bodhicitta, so the part of development, altruism, love and compassion, there is, okay, now I want to reach enlightenment. By all means, what should I do? I need to perfect my qualities. And the first quality that I need to perfect is generosity. Also because with generosity, we create a solid base to then develop the other qualities. So morality, concentration, enthusiastic effort, concentration, wisdom. But at the basis, we need that positive karmic force that sustains all the rest. And one of the simplest and most effective ways to generate that positive karmic force is by sharing, by offering, so by practicing generosity. Generosity of giving materially, of giving love, of giving protection, and of giving dharma. But this, okay, will come a moment where we will speak at length of this. In this case, we do the offerings, that it's still like a practice of generosity and a practice of offering, because generosity is not really a physical act, but mostly a mental act. It's born out of mind, it's born out of the will of sharing, of giving. So like the mind of giving. In this case, we start by giving without attachment to Guru Buddha, and we visualize the best that we can offer. And one of the ways to know whether we are doing it well is when we feel the joy of being able to offer. If we make the offerings and there is a feeling kind of like, okay, I've finished my task, I need to do the 7 branches, okay, next, no, then there is something wrong. When we make an offering and in that offering we ourselves are feeling deeply the joy that comes from offering, at that point we are doing the right thing. We are doing it in the right way. So we offer mentally, physically, we place something on the altar and then we offer mentally. A practical thing about the offerings. Here there are different interpretations, but we can offer almost anything, but it's important that what we offer, we take it to offer. We should be careful because once I place some fruit on the altar, can I eat that fruit then? Yes, actually I can, in the sense that instead of throwing fruit away, okay, I've placed it on the altar, I've done the offering, and after that I can also take it as a food that was blessed and eat it. There is no problem with that. The problem is when I buy some fruit to eat it and then in the meanwhile I offer it. I don't know if the difference is clear. One thing is that I buy it to offer it and then I eat it. Another thing is that I buy it in order to eat it and then, but in the meanwhile I offer it. The only real difference is the inner attitude. So in this case I make the offerings and I get something to offer it. Sometimes it has happened, for example, that you go to the other extreme in order to not put on the altar something that actually is for me, and momentarily I just put it on the altar. We take some specific things to make offerings, and in Tibetan culture you do like tormas. There are, for example, those with all the details made with butter, very beautiful, for when there are some ceremonies. It's like some cakes made out of barley wet. But the point is that at a certain point we offer something that we are not able to eat. So it's also not the best. Ideally we should offer something that for us is good. In Tibet you used to eat mostly also today in the villages, but less and less. The main food was barley wet. So when you were offering this, then you were offering what you used to eat. So in our context it's different, and it's very nice because in the ceremonies you have like the tradition of making offerings with a certain form, and so tormas have like their own meaning that needs to be maintained. But still we should try to make offerings that are coherent, something that to which we give value, but at the same time we get those things, we place them on the altar to offer them. Then as we have offered them, we can share them with friends, we ourselves can eat them, but the principle is that I get them in order to offer them, and then I can also eat them, but not the other way around. After having made the offerings, we go to the next. That is the part of openly admitting our mistakes. Here there are 4 important passages to do it well. They are described as the 4 powers of purification. Let's make an example to understand each other. If I speak to you in a violent way because I'm deeply angry with you, and what I've told you hasn't worked well and didn't have the result that I was expecting, and I go and think, okay, I shouldn't have said that thing, but not because I feel like that it was wrong and because I spoke with you with aggressiveness, but no, because maybe I thought, okay, it was actually better to slap you. But the only point to really openly admit one's own mistake and recognize a behavior as something that is not fine, at the basis there needs to be like an opposite feeling. So if I have had an attitude towards someone that was carried on by anger, hatred, I should have an opposite feeling, a feeling of respect, of love and compassion that goes in the opposite direction. So it's not only, I've said something, it should have been better to say it in a different way because practically it didn't work, but actually to first of all go and generate a different feeling and to get out of that state of hatred, envy, jealousy and so on, generate an opposite feeling, and on the basis of that opposite feeling I look at my own reaction and I say, yeah, it would have been better if I didn't act that way. Because otherwise I'm not really admitting my mistake. Because where are our mistakes born out of? From our feelings, because also physical and verbal actions, in Tibetan they are called the way of karma, they're not called karma itself. The action is mental. The body and the speech, they are like a tool from which the action is manifested, but the action is born out of our mind. So there is karma le. So when I act physically or when I act verbally, behind that there is always like a thought, an emotion. There is something that pushes me to that action. The action itself is that one. So in order to be able to admit openly my own mistake, I need to go behind the thought and emotion that was behind that action. And the only way to openly admit that an attitude of hatred is a wrong attitude and that it would be better to not have that is, in that moment, to not be in the hatred anymore. But as long as I am in the hatred, I will not be able to openly admit that that hatred is something that is wrong. So at least momentarily I should get out of that and generate a feeling that is at least neutral, possibly opposite, to be able to openly admit my mistake. So first we generate a feeling that is opposite, and in general, whatever action we make, we do it towards the other, and towards the other, the other is divided in two types, sentient beings and sacred beings. So the basis as a feeling to oppose, as an opposite feeling, is the love and compassion. This is like an antidote towards the actions, non-virtuous actions made towards the others, and the feeling of take of refuge with a deep feeling of gratitude towards the sacred beings. And for this, in general, the basis to purify our negative karmic force, there is the take of refuge and the generation of Bodhicitta, which means I have deep respect towards the sacred and a deep respect towards the beings that manifesting a feeling of love and compassion towards the others. And because we are not able to identify any non-virtuous action that we have committed, that we have done, we generate a feeling that manages to be an antidote for all the feelings at the basis of our non-virtuous actions. And our non-virtuous actions in general are based on selfishness that manifests like indifference towards the other, anger, rancor, aggressiveness and so on. But at the basis, so there should be love and compassion and a deep respect, gratitude towards sacred beings. And so let's try first of all to generate this, and this is done with the take of refuge, with the generation of Bodhicitta. This is the first power. Then we have the second power, that is that of looking at our own actions and to say, I was wrong, that thing is not fine, I openly admit my mistake. So if I'm purifying a behavior, for example, that I've had in towards my spiritual guide, my guru, in a wrong way. So first of all, I need to generate an opposite feeling. So I generate a feeling of respect, of gratitude, of love, of trust, and on the basis of that, I'm able to look towards this trust and lack of respect and to say that was not fine. It's fundamental to remember that when we do the process of purification, there shouldn't be the sense of guilt. It's not saying, look how bad I was, or even worse, I need to suffer because I've been bad. It's not that. It's not by suffering that we purify. To really understand what we mean by purification, it's a bit like, let's imagine a debt. If we have a debt with someone, there is a difference between paying the debt, so extinguishing the debt by paying it. Every time that I pay, then the debt decreases. And another thing is obtaining an amnestia, so extinguishing the debt without having to pay it. Amnesty. The purification is extinguishing the debt without having to pay it. We eliminate the negative karmic force. Also, when we leave, experience the results, because that force is consumed when we leave the results, but that is not the process of purification. It's a normal, natural process of consuming a negative karmic force that has been generated. The danger is that often when we consume a negative karmic force that has been generated, we react also with more negative actions, because in front of a feeling of suffering, our tendency is to react with aggressiveness, envy, attachment, and so on. So here the point is to purify. In order to purify, I need to generate an opposite feeling, to openly admit my mistake. The third point is to take a clear commitment of not wanting to repeat that action. It's another fundamental point. So it's not like, look how bad I was, and I should be punished for what I've done, and then I can do it again, and I can repeat, and then I can purify again. It's not that. If one has at the basis that feeling, already doesn't work. There needs to be the commitment, sincere commitment to not repeat it. Then it can happen that one falls again. Yes, then one regenerates again the commitment. I don't want to repeat it, but it needs to be sincere. So one opposite attitude, the awareness that the mistake was a mistake, that is that mental, physical or verbal action was not fine, it was something that brought more suffering. So openly admit my mistake. I generate the commitment of really not wanting to repeat it, and in this case I request the blessings to Guru Buddha to give me the strength and the clarity to not repeat that action. And then lastly, I generate a positive force in opposition to that negative force. It's a bit like when we have explained that we kind of do an action like throwing the stick. The action is completed, but there is still the force that pushes the stick, and it goes on until that force meets another force. And that force can be like a condition where the fruits are given, but also in the process of purification with an opposite attitude, openly admitting the mistake, the commitment to not repeat it. I go and do something that generates a positive karmic force in opposition to the negative one, and one neutralizes the other. And this is called the practice of purification. So at this point, ideally we should go through these 4 steps. That is, I generate an opposite feeling, so connecting at least with love and compassion, and possibly also with take refuge. And then I acknowledge all the negative actions that I've committed, taken by anger, selfishness, attachment, and so on. All the times that I've had a physical, verbal, that may create suffering in the others, every time that I took some commitments and I didn't maintain them, every time that I lacked respect, and so on. we can go and check also to list what were the negative behaviors. And the basis to get to the next, that is to commit to not repeat them again, starts from the principle that I've recognized them. I cannot commit to not do them again if I didn't recognize them. And here there is also a beautiful act of maturity, that is our capacity of recognizing our mistakes. Why do we make mistakes? Because we have ignorance, because we are taken by jealousy, envy, fear, and so on. We are in samsara. It's not that we are already Buddhas. So the act of openly admitting the mistakes also requires at the basis an act of compassion towards oneself, of self-welcoming. I don't know if this is clear, because it's not like pointing a finger towards oneself and saying, how bad you are. No, it's more similar to kind of like embracing oneself and to say, okay, I've been conditioned by all the negative experiences of the past, by my own ignorance and selfishness. I've done something that didn't work. How beautiful that I can recognize it, because I want to go towards light. I don't want to go and repeat the same mistakes over and over. So it's based on something that is an act of love and compassion towards oneself, and not like an act of punishment or like for guilt. Is the difference clear? It's like if we imagine that like some child comes to us after having recognized that he or she has done something wrong. We can say, yes, it's true that you have done something wrong, and hit him or her. Next time that child won't come and tell us. Not only I've done the effort to recognize what I did was wrong, then I was also hit after that, and I will just hide it. Or we can go to the child and say, no, but don't worry, it's all fine. Then we also give him or her a present. The poor child. That child did all the effort to understand that it was not nice, and it comes to us to show that. And then we, instead of saying, look, I help you to overcome this, no, we say, look, no, the effort that you did, it's pointless, because actually it was not important. And the other possibility is that that child comes to us and we say, how good that you realized, how can we make it so that you don't repeat it? How beautiful that we can recognize that it's not fine in order to protect ourselves in the future. And now can we look towards the future and not repeat it? And so with joy, one looks ahead. And it's the same attitude towards ourselves. We should welcome that child that makes that effort and help that child to look toward the future in a different way. The same attitude should be towards ourselves, an attitude of welcoming. But unfortunately, we live in a culture where there is strongly the concept of punishment, both towards the others and also towards ourselves. There is this strange concept that is, if someone has done something that is wrong towards me, in the moment that that person feels some kind of suffering, then it's like justice was made. Personally, I don't agree. What I believe is that if one person has a behavior that is harmful to the others, and it's not able to respect some basic rules of living with the others, that person needs to be sustained in order to change the behavior. And that sometimes is also about using some strength, in the sense, I don't allow you to have that behavior, but in the process of helping you to change your behavior, not to punish you. Is the difference clear? And the same thing is also about ourselves, with ourselves. We should welcome ourselves, protect ourselves from our own negative conditioning. if I know that I eat too much chocolate, I shouldn't eat, and I shouldn't eat chocolate, I don't go in the chocolate store every day. I take all the chocolates that I have at home and I put them aside. If I have a problem with alcohol, one of the first things that I should do, I throw away all the alcohol that I have at home, because I need to protect myself from my weakness. It's not that I should say how bad I am. I need to take some measures to protect myself from my bad habits. But with an act of welcoming and redirecting. Otherwise, we get into this bad, unhealthy dynamic where we feel guilty for what we have done that is not nice, it was not fine. We punish ourselves for that. We feel bad for what we have done that is not good. And then eventually, after that we have suffered, okay, it has gone away, then I can do it again. Then we end up repeating the same thing, then we feel bad again. I've suffered enough for what I've done. And sometimes I've also heard some comments that really show this mentality that we have, partly that is the suffering makes spiritual growth, that it's like really something stupid. Like someone that goes through some serious difficulties and says, if I don't get enlightened, then who else? But if suffering will bring to enlightenment, then it's pointless that we are here talking about LamRim. There are many, many more effective ways. What brings a growth? It's the process of being able to catch the opportunity that is in the suffering to transform. To live a moment of suffering doesn't necessarily mean spiritual growth. So the process of openly admitting one's own mistakes and to purify doesn't happen through a process of having to suffer and not also to feeling guilty. One of the terms that is used is confession, but I have the feeling that in our culture the word confession comes together with other meanings. It comes also with a sense of guilt. And so confessing in the sense of openly admitting one's own mistakes and to commit to not repeat them and to do something to oppose to what was done that was negative. This is what needs to be done. Then whether we call it confessing or however we like, it's just a term, but it's important to understand the nature of it. So in this moment of the practice, we should imagine Guru Buddha after having done the offerings, and we openly admit our mistakes, and after this we visualize that from the heart of Guru Buddha there are different possible visualization, but the simplest ones is that we visualize rays of light from the heart of Guru Buddha, white in color, that come towards our head and they feel our body, and all the negative karmic forces generated by that action, bit by bit, they fade away. Then we can imagine that they go out of our pores like as kind of sweat that dissolves in space, or that our body is filled with nectar, so pouring outside of our head and going out like dirt, or from the lower parts of our body that it goes out and is absorbed in the ground. The important thing is that we imagine this light and nectar that comes in and fills our body, and I am of the nature of love and compassion and wisdom, and we imagine that it comes from Guru Buddha and it comes in us, and it's also an act of love towards ourselves. And there where we feel tensions accumulated in the body and in the mind, we imagine that bit by bit they melt away, and we openly admit our mistakes, and together with that we commit to not repeat them, and we purify and we clean that negative karmic force, that energy that was generated by those actions. And these negative karmic forces of two types. One is the imprints that were generated. So I have lied, I created the habit of lying. So I imagine that I remove that habit. I clean the imprint that is left, and the other is the negative energy that was generated through that action. In this moment, one that wants to get into more details is possible to include the practice of Vajrasattva, so at the heart of Guru Buddha there is Vajrasattva, and one recites the 100 syllables mantra and does the practice in this way, or only simply from the heart of Guru Buddha, rays of light and nectar come to us and fill our body and purify each one of our negativities of body, speech and mind. And then there are many different purification practices. We can add many details, we can make them very long, but at least we should have that moment where we recognize it's beautiful to start from some specific things and then to generalize. Okay, in the last week, in the last days, this and that I've done and that was not good, some commitments that I didn't keep, violent words that I have said, thoughts that were selfish, based on anger or envy, or we recognize all those things, and the more we go on, the more we will be able to recognize subtler things. And the fact of openly admitting our mistakes has also a function of putting ourselves on the line again and to give us direction again. After this, we go then to what we've said yesterday, there is rejoicing. In the process of rejoicing, in this practice we have in front of us Guru Buddha, and we begin by rejoicing of the virtues of Guru Buddha himself. So one of the things that we do, for example, is if we have in front, for example, visualize Lama Tsong Khapa in front of us, we think about the life of him and rejoice of the beautiful things. Or if we think about our own Guru, what are the virtues, things that we believe the Guru has, so we rejoice of those things until rejoicing also of our own virtuous things and of the others. It's a bit like celebrating and say, wow, how beautiful, I'm happy that you have done this, that you have explained the Dharma, you have transmitted the three aspects of the path. I am happy of your compassion, of your wisdom, of your capacity of welcoming, of your I am happy of my own practice of Dharma. I rejoice of every moment of love, wisdom and awareness of every being. We rejoice of the positive things. And it is said that rejoicing other than being the ideal practice for the lazy ones, because when we rejoice really of a positive karmic force of another, it is said that we also generate quite a lot of positive karmic force. So one doesn't have to lay down at the beach, the sea, as one is rejoicing. And yeah, if one does that and rejoices of the positive karmic forces of the other, then also one generates that. But to really feel joy for the virtue of the other is not easy, and to do that, one first needs to do the anterior process of not comparing oneself with the others. Otherwise, it can also happen, as I've already seen, that we think about the life of Lama Tsong Khapa and we tell about it. You know that he did this retreat and here and there. Yeah, if I also didn't have to work, and I can also do a retreat. So one even compares. But we're not talking about you, we're talking about Lama Tsong Khapa. Yeah, I would like to see Lama Tsong Khapa if he was born in Milan in the year 2000, what would he have done? Yeah, if I was also taken by a master when I was 1 year and a half, I would also have done differently. But we're not talking about you. There is also the other than you. So it's a moment to be a bit less narcissistic, to be able to go beyond oneself and to see the other. And the rejoicing, it is said that is one of the best practices anti-narcissism. And then the great majority of us have some narcissism. There is who has be more, who has less. I've seen some situations where a person is not able to talk about any argument without putting oneself in front, or to kind of twist it for oneself. And in order to rejoice, one has to go be beyond that. One has to be able to see the other and to say, how beautiful that you've done this, that you have joy, without getting into whether you deserve it or not. You have done something virtuous, you've experienced something beautiful, I'm happy. It's the joy for the virtue, that's it. The joy for the joy. And it's crazy because it seems simple, but it's not. And so we should train in this. So in this moment of practice, we rejoice. We try to rejoice about positive things, because this also has an other important aspect. When we leave certain situations, after that, the more we revisit those situations mentally, the more we help to fixate those experiences in our long-term memory. So we have this moment that we have here today, we are here together. Then after this moment we repeat, how beautiful that I was here today to share the Lam Rim. There was this moment, I understood this and that. The more we repeat to ourselves what had happened, the more we stabilize that in our memory. It's a normal thing that we do to kind of revisit our experiences, to fixate them in the long-term memory. When positive experiences are fixated well in the long-term memory, then one tomorrow we will have the capacity of taking them back and to relieve them and to have that as a point of reference. When we don't fixate them, and one of the dangers to not do that is, for example, to not sleep well, because the moment where we fixate and create long-term memories is when we have a deep sleep. There are different studies that when one is getting into deep sleep, revisits the things that were lived during the day, really fixating them, creating a memory. Unfortunately, many people don't sleep well. For example, I've heard saying that mostly all the chemical drugs to sleep, that in some cases I believe that they are necessary, they help to sleep, but they don't allow the person to get into a deep sleep. The lack of that deep sleep generates the fact that the person is not able to create long-term memories, and also that person is not able to reprocess the emotions that were lived, which are very important functions of sleeping. So sleeping well is fundamental. And because another way also to fixate memory is also to get into that inner dialogue and repeating things. The more I repeat things, the more that gets fixated. And when one day I will try to go back to what has happened, the point of reference will be the memories that were fixated, not what happened. So if we, in our everyday life, when we have beautiful things, we are able to celebrate them, to remember them, to rejoice about them, to say, wow, how beautiful that today we had this beautiful moment and that I understood this and that there is this feeling of love, affection, trust, and so on, and we are able to remember and to rejoice of that, then we are fixating our long-term memory. And among the many benefits, in a future moment where there is maybe like a crisis, to have those point of references is fundamental. Otherwise, our tendency is to generalize the past through the last negative experience. Is it clear? And so, when we tell ourselves to rejoice, is the fact of going there and to remember ourselves and to repeat to ourselves the beautiful, positive, virtuous things. We start from the relationship to Guru Buddha, and then we extend it to all the others, also to ourselves. And repeat one last time, the practice of rejoicing is one of the most important practices that we can do. Because we are not able to live the present in a way that is separate from the past. And inevitably, we live the present conditioned by the past. But the past is not what happened. The past is what we remember of what happened. And accordingly to our inner dialogue and the narratives that we create, then we build our own past in a way or another. Because in any occasion, often there are positive, pleasurable aspects and non-pleasurable aspects. But if I fixate myself on what is not fine and I build myself a narrative of what is wrong and this and that, then this is the reality that I'm creating for myself. This is the narrative. This is my past. And I will also live the future and project the future basing myself on that past. When I create a narrative that is based on positive experiences, then I look towards the future with that perspective. And this, among other things, also decreases our anxiety, our stress, because our stress is caused predominantly by mental threats. Because we have the habit of criticizing, we have the habit of complaining, of seeing the part that is not fine, we create this narrative, we live the past in this way, and we project ourselves in the future basing ourselves on that. So we already have the anxiety of what can happen. And so the rejoicing is an antidote also to this. It's a practical, real antidote to be able to have trust in the future. But rejoicing needs to be done. And really, just because it doesn't come spontaneous, sometimes yes, but most of the time no. Also in Italian we have the word to feel joy, but not like rejoicing. Or at least when I looked for it, I didn't find it. Also in the book, I wrote rejoicing with quotes. Because it's not just feeling joy, but it's feeling joy for what is positive, for the virtuous actions. And it's something that is deep, sincere, like a celebration. And this is one of the qualities that we need to train. And so at the beginning, yeah, it's up to us to kind of celebrate in an artificial way. It needs to be done. So to celebrate, to say thanks, to express gratitude, to allow oneself to see the beauty of things, the positive sides of things, and to feel joy for those, without taking away the negative sides, but to be able to see the beauty. It's a bit like when we were in India once in the 96, if I remember well, 95, 96, together with Lama Chen. We were on a beautiful journey, and then going from the monastery of Gandan, going back to Bangalore, in the middle of the way there was like an accident, quite ugly. Our bus tried to take over a sort of tractor, and there was like a truck coming from the other direction. Don't remember if, but the fact is that we crashed frontally. Lama Chen also was quite hurt. Some people also were hurt. Kozi broke her arm in a very ugly way. The majority of people did like a few things. Maybe some people hit their head. But the fact is that I get out of the bus. There was a car behind us of people, some friends that took like people that were sick, that were hurt, and took them to the hospital. And the rest were waiting for someone else to pick us up. And as I get out of the bus, naturally I look up and I see one of the most beautiful night skies that I've ever seen. We were far away from any city. There was no luminous pollution. There was this very beautiful sky, and I remember looking at it, and I was feeling a deep joy. And wow, how beautiful! And I was talking with the other. Have you seen the sky? And they were looking at me, but are you like stupid or something? But it's not like in the middle, who knows what is happening. We just have to wait. And if while we have to wait, we can enjoy something beautiful, why not? And here we take again that way of saying of deep philosophy that one thing is one thing and another thing is another thing. One doesn't take away the other. And for as much there can be violence, suffering, things that are ugly, that needs to be seen, needs to be admitted and opposed to, this doesn't take away the fact that there are some joyous, virtuous, beautiful things that need to be seen and need to be celebrated, and energy needs to be placed there also. The greatest challenge is to rejoice of the beautiful things of the person towards which we have aversion. But it's possible. But we start bit by bit by rejoicing of the beautiful, virtuous things of our masters, of the Buddhas, of the saints, of the friends, of the virtuous people, and so on, to then bit by bit be able to also rejoice of those that are closest to us, and also of those towards which we have a strong aversion. And so this is the practice of rejoicing. In a specific case, we are rejoicing of our relationship with the Guru, with the Dharma. After having done the part of rejoicing, we then go to the part of that is called the request of turning Dharma wheel. That is, okay, I'm in front of Guru Buddha, what do I expect from you? And here it's important to put clarity where I am, what do I want, what do I expect out of Guru Buddha, that he can bless me, that he can guide me, that he can guide me with love and give me the Dharma, because I want to get out of my cycle of suffering, and so to put clarity on what I want to get and to make request. The fact of making request is also where we create the conditions to be able to receive. I don't know, have you ever tried to help someone that doesn't want to be helped? It's difficult, right? So the first point, the first rule that is also established in many contexts is before helping someone, that person needs to be helped. And I remember when I talk about this, an anecdote of a life of a dear friend that already passed away many years ago. It was called Patrizia Beninca. She was attending the center in Milan, and Patrizia, in her youth, for blood transfer, took hepatitis. And so in her youth, she had a strong addiction to heroin, and then she did a blood transfusion, and then she took hepatitis. But she was telling that she wanted to get out of her addiction. She really didn't want to be there anymore. And she found a community with a clinic in Canada to be able to get out of the addiction from heroin. And to get into this community, there was a moment, there was like a gym where all the participants of the community were there, both those that had addictions and the workers. They were all sitting kind of like you, looking at me. And every person that wanted to get in had to go in front of everyone and to give the reasons for which that person wanted to join the community and asked to join. And that person was not able to join until everyone said yes. And for her, like 5 hours were needed, because she was telling at the beginning, she was like explaining in a theoretical way, okay, I want to come here because I have heroin addiction, and the answer they were giving was like, we don't feel you. And so she started to say and to give other explanations until she was desperate. She started to cry, to scream from the deepest way, part of her being, asking help, because she couldn't stand it anymore, like that state of suffering where she was, and where she was really, where she really placed her ego aside and made like a deep request. Then at that point everyone admitted her. But if it wasn't that request that was so deep, then she said that she would have never been able to do what she wanted to do. So when we find ourselves in a situation of difficulty, it's up to us to ask for help, and this is the basis that gives us the strength to follow a path. It's not a matter of being able to, it's a matter of being open to that path. And when one is not ready to be healed and to take a path and doesn't believe to need help, then it's pointless. It's difficult. One little can be done. And we want to get out of samsara. If we went to Buddha Shakyamuni as if he was like a doctor, look, Buddha, let's imagine that we go to Buddha as if he was a doctor, and he asks us, what symptoms do you have? I am dissatisfied. Actually, life is quite okay, but still I see problems everywhere. Every once in a while it seems that it's okay, but then there is like some suffering, there is the conflict with this and there, and everyone says his own thing, and then Buddha says, yeah, you're sick. Your sickness is called selfishness, or obsession with self-gratification, that is manifested through anger, rancor, through envy, attachment, dissatisfaction, and so on, that creates non-virtuous actions, and eventually this disease is created by the virus of ignorance. Do you want to be healed? It all depends whether I believe that I'm sick or not. Because as long as I don't see that my body and mind are polluted by ignorance, by selfishness, by anger, by dissatisfaction, by mental defilements in general, and I want to get out of this, until I don't generate that deep feeling, then I will have a hard time really practice the Dharma in a deep way. I can try to be a good Buddhist because I believe that it's nice to be a good Buddhist. I can believe that, sorry if I say it like this, I can get to even trying to, how can I say, I create the idealized image of the good spiritual practitioner, and I try to do all the things because I want to be the good spiritual practitioner, to nourish my ego with that idealized image, not because I actually want to reach a deep state of peace and get out of the cycle of suffering of samsara. I don't know if this is clear, the difference is clear. Just as there is a trap of wanting to help the others, not because I care about the others, but because I care about being whom cares about the others, which is another very dangerous trap. And so, in this point where we make the request, it's the moment where we reconnect with the why are we here. Because I am in samsara and I can't stand it anymore. I see suffering around me and I can't take it anymore to see suffering. I want everyone to be fine. Me, myself, I want to be fine. I want every being around me to be fine. And so I make a deep request to Guru Buddha, help me. Help me. What way? Help me to guide me with the Dharma, because it's the only way. Because if it was possible that I ask you help and Buddha comes and he says, okay, ignorance, go away, anger, jealousy, go away. But it's not like that. The only thing that Buddha can do is to show us what we can cultivate and what we can abandon. Then it's up to us to cultivate one and abandon the other. But we ask to receive the blessings, to be guided with love, wisdom, and we ask to receive the Dharma. I want to walk with my own legs, but give me the hand, show me the path. This is the request that we make in this moment. And it's very important to make this request, because I repeat, the deeper is the request of help, then the more easily also we will be able to follow that path. It's not a request of help that is based on a state of kind of punishment. Look how bad I am, save me. No, I want to get out of the state where I am. Show me the path, guide me. I can do it, but I need help. So we make this deep request. In general, as a visualization, as we are doing this, we visualize that we offer to Guru Buddha a Dharma wheel. The wheel of Dharma, there was one here that it's not there anymore, in the sense that I gave it to someone. We imagine like the rudder of a boat, and the turning of the wheel represents like and the experience and knowledge inside one that then is transmitted to the other, then one can take it and also turn it to someone else. So the turning of the wheel of Dharma is in the sense of sharing, of offering an experience, a knowledge that one has inside, and to give it to the other. There are two types of the wheel of Dharma. There is the one that is called Lunga Chokur in Tibetan. Lunga Chokur is the oral wheel of Dharma. That is the knowledge. So for example, I have some concepts that I've learned. What is the take of refuge, the Four Noble Truths, Bodhicitta, the Four Branches, and so on. And so I explain it in the same way that I've received it. So this is the turning the wheel of Dharma of the concepts, the oral one. And then there is the turning of the wheel of Dharma of realizations, where I have my own experience of Dharma. I share it with you. So I offer to you something that is based other than on a knowledge, also on an experience. And from the moment where you technically understand what was happened, what is explained, then we are turning the wheel of Dharma of knowledge. And when your mind is transformed by that teaching, then the wheel of Dharma of experience or realization is being turned. So the symbol of turning the wheel of Dharma represents the symbol of sharing, offering, and to receive, and to realize, to then turn again. So we ask Guru Buddha to turn the wheel of Dharma, to transmit his knowledge, to transmit his experience, so that we can acquire that knowledge, we can get those realizations. So we can imagine to receive a wheel of Dharma, like a golden usually. Actually, we offer this to Guru Buddha as a request. But again, I repeat that when we make the request, we have to connect with why do I want the Dharma. It's not because I'm a Buddhist and it's written there that when I do the 7 branches I need to make this request. No, because I recognize that I am afflicted by the all-pervasive suffering and that I am in the samsara, and so the only practice to get out of it is the Dharma, and I want to help the other beings, and the only way is by getting out myself from samsara. So please help me in that sense. So we make the request of turning the wheel of Dharma. After this, the next request that we make is the request of staying with us for long. Sometimes it's called the request of not getting into nirvana, but the concept is to remain for long, with us. This request is born historically at the time of Buddha, when Buddha, just a little before passing away, he goes to his attendant, who was called Ananda, and he goes to him and he says, look, Ananda, a Buddha, if he wanted, but mostly if he was asked to him, he could also live like for 10,000 years. And Ananda says, wow, how beautiful. And Buddha repeats, Ananda, listen well, a Buddha, if he wants, and if he was asked to him, he could live even for 10,000 of years. Wow, how beautiful. And he said like a third time, Ananda didn't understand, and then a few days later Buddha died. Others got to know this and they really scolded Ananda very harshly. And then out of this, it was born this tradition of asking to the spiritual guide to remain with us for long. Also, when we do like long life puja, is actually when we make a request. This comes out of something that, okay, let's imagine that someone asks for help, and it asks a commitment on our side to help that person. When we take the commitment, that has like a force to make us stay with that person. And similarly, when we ask to Guru Buddha and say, look, Guru Buddha, you have had this body, you're here with us, please stay with us because your actions are beneficial. If I make an opposite example, like it was recognized the reincarnation of a very important master in India, and his parents didn't want him to receive the traditional Buddhist education. His parents said, no, he will have a very normal life, and then when he will have finished university, if he would like to be a Buddhist, then he can do it, but not before that. The Lamas recognized the reincarnation of her masters, said, okay, fine, we can't force it. And then at a certain point, this child, as he was very little, he starts to get sick. He was always like feverish, he's always weak. And every time that they bring him to the monastery, then the fever is going away. Then as he goes back home, then he's sick. And then after a while, the parents that are desperate, and then they go to the Lama and they say, look, he is a being that was born with a very precise goal, and if those conditions are not there, then he will take another body. So it's a bit like saying, if a being manifests a gross body and those conditions, the conditions to do what his goal is, that is to help the beings with Dharma, are not there, then dying is not a problem. We try again. Another body maybe would be better. So for this, what we do when requesting for a long life, we say, okay, let's also make a different example, like a doctor that goes to work in a place not to make a career or to really earn a lot, but really because he wants to help people that are in that place. And if he gets there and he doesn't see benefit in what he's doing, no one wants to follow his treatments, and then he says, okay, then I go somewhere else. But if he sees that there is benefit, and then that increases his commitment. Okay, I will continue here. So when we ask Guru Buddha to stay with us, it's like saying, look, I have a commitment to follow Dharma well. Please follow. Please be with me. I make your request meaningful by following the process of healing. So please stay with me, guide me in every choice that I take, in every thought that I have, in every word that I say, and to stay with me during my life, during my death, during my birth, during every future life. So please stay with me until I have completed this path. So until I will have reached myself the state of Buddhahood. So we make this request of staying with us. And in this request is also elaborated in the sense of saying, oh, Guru Buddha, please stay with me, manifesting yourself in any way that is more suitable to my needs. Because if a sacred being, a Buddha, comes to me and manifests himself in a body of light, then I'm not able to see him. I don't know about you.
Meglio che ci sia che non ci sia, però io ho bisogno di qualcuno di carne e ossa, ho bisogno di qualcuno che sia.
I need someone that is in flesh and bone, someone that is there, that is able to speak with me, that I'm able to interact with, because it is said that the highest act of compassion of a Buddha is to manifest oneself according to the level of each one. So when we make this request, we ask Guru Buddha, please stay always close to me in a way that I'm able to interact with you according to my own capacity and guide me.
Perciò facciamo questa richiesta. E questa richiesta ha anche una parte di visione di futuro.
And this request also has a part of projecting oneself to the future. The last one of the 7 benches, that is called the part of the dedications. A dedication, there is a clear distinction between what is an aspiration, a virtuous aspiration, and what is a dedication. A virtuous aspiration is when we desire something beautiful. So there is a difference whether I say, I want you to heal from your sickness. That's a virtuous aspiration that I make for you. Another thing is when I identify, I take an energy, a positive karmic force, something that I generated, and I direct that positive karmic force so that you can heal from your sickness. So the main difference that there is that when it's an aspiration, a virtuous aspiration, in Tibetan is called Munlam. So this prayer is a virtuous wish, and the dedication is a virtuous wish that with also the substance that you dedicate with it. Like something is okay, saying I would like to buy a house. Another thing is like putting money aside to do that, for that. So there is like a substance that is dedicated to that function. It's like saying, I would really like you that you will be able to eat today. Another thing will be like, yeah, we really like you to be able to eat today. Maybe I can't give you like a complete meal, but I give you something. So I direct something for that action. What is described is that when we dedicate, that positive karmic force that we have generated becomes directed towards the others, so it's not just ours, it becomes of everyone. Let's imagine like the lake, like here we have Lago Maggiore, we have a big lake. I take my cup of water and I pour it in the lake. My water, is it in the lake or not? Yes. But can I highlight and separate my water and just take back my water? No. But still I have the right of my cup. What does it mean? Like on one hand it's a bit selfish. When we dedicate in a sincere way to the others, we are sharing that positive karmic force with the others. So it's a bit like as if we were pouring our water of our own positive karmic force in the collective lake of everyone. And this protects ourselves from not destroying that positive karmic force, because through hatred, punishment, violence and so on, it's possible to eliminate the positive karmic force generated in the past. One of the most effective ways for this is anger. And so, when I generate a positive karmic force and I don't dedicate it, then it's much more vulnerable to be destroyed by my own non-virtuous actions. When I dedicate it to the others, really, it's not mine anymore, but it's of everyone. So my own actions don't have anymore the power of eliminating that negative karmic force, but I still have the right of having that result. It's not that I dedicate to the others and I don't have for myself. It's more like a power of multiplication. So one of the reasons for which at the end of anything positive we dedicate, it's in order to protect that positive karmic force, and we create a condition so that it can increase, and also we reconnect again to the motivation of the why we're doing it. Other than the fact that when we accomplish any action, in order for any action to be complete, it needs to have four parts: the intention, so the motivation, the wanting of doing it, the action itself, the conclusion of the action, and the rejoicing of the action. I want to help you. I take that thing to give it to you. I then give it to you. And how beautiful that I was able to do that. When we dedicate, it's also a moment to rejoice for what we have done. So also to close that action so that it's complete. So as Atisha said in the garland of Bodhisattva jewel, there are two actions, one at the beginning and one at the end. When we begin, we generate the motivation, and when we finish, then we dedicate. So it's always important to direct that positive karmic force and to dedicate it in the most altruistic way possible. And with this, the 7 branches are completed. When we do the 7 branches, one way is through the recitation. So it is said that words are like the stick to make the old man of the meaning walk. So sometimes to induce our minds, what is used are words. So because of this, when we do the Guru Puja, and not only that, also other texts, actually it's words that are used to direct our mind. So now, without getting into details, all that we have talked about up to now is described in the Guru Puja. So I read quickly. We also take a Guru Puja. From the verse 18, we start with the prostrations. So in the verse 23, we start with the offerings, the external offerings. Then you have the mandala offering, which we will speak about afterwards. And there is the offer of the spiritual practice, the secret offering, the medicine offering. Then the other ones of the 7 branches start. So we have confession, openly admitting our mistakes. Before the eyes of the great compassionate ones, that is in front of Guru Buddha, we lay bare with a mind of regret whatever non-virtue and negative actions we have committed from beginningless time, caused others to do, or in which we have rejoiced. We vow never to commit them again. It's very clear. When we speak about a non-virtuous action, it can be made on 3 modes. Whatever non-virtuous action can multiply by 3. When we do it directly, when we rejoice of the others doing it, or when we make someone else do it. So it's something is like I kill. How beautiful that the other killed, or I make someone else kill. Like that's why, for example, it is said that in a war, who gives the order of the attack, the general, the president, and so on, generates a negative karmic force that is multiplied by that of all the soldiers that were in the war, because I make the others do. And that it's as if I did it myself. And here you can see the weight of those actions. Then you have the rejoicing. Though though all things are like a dream, lacking inherent or natural existence, we sincerely rejoice in the happiness and joy of all Aryas, and that are the beings that went out of samsara, and ordinary beings, and in every white virtue that has ever arisen. So it's a verse to rejoice for all the positive things that are there. Then there is the request to turn the wheel of Dharma. We ask that rains of vast and profound Dharma fall from 100,000 clouds billowing with sublime wisdom and loving compassion to nurture, sustain and propagate a garden of moonflowers for the benefit and bliss of those limitless beings. There is like a poetic version here that is being used where the teachings of Dharma are like the rain falling from the clouds of love and compassion on the fertile ground. There is the ground of faith on the sides of beings to make the realizations grow inside of everyone. Then there is the request to remain. Though your Vajra body is subject to neither birth nor death and is the vessel of the great King of Union, please abide forever, and in keeping with our wishes, pass not into Nirvana until the end of samsara. In other words, it's even if your Excellence Guru Buddha is not trapped in this physical body, please stay in a physical body because I need. In a few words is that. Then we dedicate the collection of white virtues thus created so that we may be inseparably protected throughout all our lives by venerable gurus possessing the three kindnesses, and so that we may attain the Vajradhara state of union. In other words, we dedicate all the positive karmic force generated until now so that we can never be separated by the Guru, by the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, and so that we can gradually grow more and more in our path and to reach a state of Buddhahood to help the beings. So we dedicate. So the various verses are needed to direct our mind. So with this we conclude this part of the 7 branches, and I wanted just to say again that the 7 branches maybe look like something technical, like a sort of ritual, when actually they're not. Each one of them has a function that is very specific, of generating inside ourselves like a part that is necessary for our spiritual development. From paying homage as an antidote to arrogance, to then making offerings as an antidote to avarice, miserliness, then cultivating openly admitting our mistakes, to revisit our actions and to oppose to the negative karmic force, rejoicing to even establish the long-term memory and also to generate the positive karmic force and give us direction to where we want to go, requesting the teachings, having clarity of what I really want, why am I here, to ask in the presence of Guru Buddha, and to create that interdependence so that I can be guided, and to make the dedication where I put again my motivation and to remember myself that I do this. It starts from me, but I'm here for the others, and it's beautiful and it's important, but really because it's a process of familiarization of our own mind that we need to repeat these things. So we do it in a meditative moment where one sits, one goes through the various visualizations, one does the 7 branches, and aside from what one recites, the important thing is the inner state that one generates. And to help with that, one starts with the verses that one reads. So I prostrate with devotion, with body, speech and mind. I make effectively offerings that are actually placed there and also visualized. I openly admit all the non-virtuous actions committed since beginningless time. I rejoice for all the supreme and ordinary beings, all the actions of the ordinary and supreme beings. please remain with me until the end of samsara, guide me with the sacred Dharma, turning the wheel of Dharma, and I dedicate these virtues to the enlightenment of myself and the others, and of every other ascension being. It's a few verses that we can recite. These are written where we have the preliminary practices at the beginning of the self-healing, or in the yellow white book, that is yellow small book that is called the Prayers for Peace Messengers. One can read a verse and one waits, imagines, connects with that feeling, then goes to the next. Then if one wants to do it in a more extended way, then one can do the prostrations for longer, then also the offerings, and each one of these passages can be done for quite a long time. But the important thing is the internal process that we do. Then bit by bit becomes a habit. For example, making offerings, we see something beautiful, we see flowers, we offer it. And so on. We can apply all of this in our everyday life, which is very important, but we use it as a sort of ritual, so that it's something that bit by bit it helps us to develop this inside of us. Now we make the dedications.
Mikte ulvarki drokuna namandashi chöpar sho Je Tsong Lame kutse raptenchi namkara chinle chokchur gepadang lo santempe drume sasumgi drove munsel takto ne gyur Chi yidam guru ratna mindrala kam niryatayami Chancho simcho rimpoche ma ke panama ke gyurchi ke pa nyambra me pa yang kongne konto pelwarasho. Possa la preziosa
May the precious mind of Bodhicitta that is not born yet be born and grow. May the one that is already born not degenerate and grow more and more.
Kuyan delekshi Ninsen takto delekpe Kuncho sumke chingelo Kuncho sumke ngodrubotsol Kuncho sumke trascisho All'alba o al tramonto, di notte o durante il giorno, possano i tre gioielli concederci le loro benedizioni, possano aiutarci ad ottenere tutte le realizzazioni e cospargere il sentiero della nostra vita con molti segni di buon auspicio. Buon appetito.
I would like to ask on a practical level to who also remains afterwards, if possibly we can say hi to each other so that I have a bit more time during the break now, and then we are able also to come back in time. Thank you everyone.